everybody, and welcome back to my channel again. My name is Michelle, as you probably know, based on the title of the channel. However, today's topic is, again, not going to be about cosmetics. Today, it's actually focusing for the second time on infertility. Specifically, we are going to talk about my personal experience with what they call an endometrial biopsy. So if you are not interested in hearing about this, please feel free to click away, and I'll get into detail, but nothing too squirmish or anything like that. So please excuse me, I sound horrible. I've been sick again. This month has been horrible for colds and that type of thing. So let's just dive right into it. Basically, from my understanding, and please, I'm not a doctor, again, this is just my personal experience, my personal understanding, an endometrial biopsy, there's two different types. When you do a quick search on the internet, it sounds like one of them is more or less of a scratch of the uterus, the other is where you're actually getting tissue removed. I joke around and call it getting a chunk of my uterus taken out, but it's not, I mean, we're not talking a chunk of uterus, we're talking about a small tissue size. So two different types. From my understanding, the scratch is done to increase adherence during implantation, I think. The kind that I had done, the endometrial biopsy, is simply done to examine some of the tissue from the uterus, looking for a few things. I do know that it used to be to looking for any type of luteal phase problems. However, from my understanding, that is no longer one of the top reasons for doing them, or even if it should be a reason for doing them. The reason that mine was done was to check for any type of underlying infection that may have been preventing me from being able to properly implant an embryo. So basically the procedure itself was not long at all. However, it was extremely painful. So I want to give you a little bit of maybe relief to some anxiety. I had done a lot of Googling, I had done some YouTubing, anything to try to find out information on this procedure. And frankly, I was scared, absolutely terrified after what I've read. So really quick, no, I did not scream. No, I did not burst out crying. You know, I wasn't doubled over in pain afterwards. It wasn't like that. It wasn't like the horror stories that you see on the internet, but I won't lie, it was extremely painful. My suggestion, I know that everybody says if you can take ibuprofen, do it. Do whatever your maximum allowance is. Ask your healthcare, provider. I would do that, and I would definitely ask for a sedative if at all possible. I did not have any sedative, and believe me, I wish that I had asked. And in fact, I have to go back for a second one, but we'll get to that in a minute. Please ask for a sedative. Please ask for something, because it was awful. So thank God that my husband drove, because he came in the room with me, and I had him like face me, not face the business. And I was squeezing his hand so tight during this whole thing. It was that bad. So if you've had an HSG, it's not as, the process itself isn't as long with the HSG. So I remember for mine, I had to do some moving around on the table for them to examine the fallopian tubes. You do not have to move around on the table this time. You're in one awful position and you'll stay there. So they basically, whatever they do, they insert some tools up there and they go through your cervix, which is the painful part. The part that's excruciating, though, is when they're actually doing the removal of the tissue. And my doctor did basically a countdown, like, okay, you've got 10 seconds, you've got this. I felt like I was like running track again in high school, which was good. I like that type of coaching, like, breathe, I need you for this many more seconds. Okay, I can do 10 seconds, like I can do that. So that helped. But I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it's just a walk in the park. I don't know, maybe if I have a low pain tolerance, I tend to think I don't, but it was excruciating, and it's some of the worst pain I've ever felt in my life. It was a burning sensation, a tearing sensation, and I felt like, cramps. I don't even know the words. The words escape me. I've never had children. Obviously, I've been pregnant twice, but I've never carried to term. Possibly 3 times, but I've never carried to term. So I can't vouch for that, or I can't even speak to that. But it was extremely painful. After the procedure, I sat up. I was extremely nauseous. In fact, I was extremely nauseous through the whole thing itself. So I don't know, maybe if it would help not to eat beforehand or eat something very light, earlier, but yeah, I could have barfed like that. So then it was over. So quickly, you know, it started and quickly it was over. I did spot afterwards. I spotted for the next few days. I was just not feeling like myself the rest of that day. I happened to be off work, but if I would have had to work, I don't think I would have wanted to go back to work after that. It was just a lot to take on mentally as well as physically. And for those reasons, I don't think I would have been 100% for work or at my work performance where it should have been. So I would not have worked afterwards. So I hope maybe that helps on your decision. If you're kind of weighing it, I personally say, nah, take your sick day. So that was kind of the summation of the procedure. And it took a few days of spotting. I did have cramps that day. I had cramps the next day. I may have even had cramps the third day. So it took about 4 solid days for the spotting to stop. It was not like heavy spotting. It was not like, oh, there's tons of blood coming out of me. Just enough to where it was definitely noticeable. So, you know, again, I don't want to sugarcoat this, but in the case of infertility, so I'm done talking about all the effects of this procedure. So if you're still interested in hearing, you know that I've talked about my particular infertility story and what we're going through. So they ended up finding something. So in a messed up way, I'm kind of glad that I went through hell and back, through my uterus, I guess, because they ended up finding an infection. It's called endometritis. I think I'm saying it wrong. It's not endometriosis. Not. Two different things. So the cause for mine is unknown. They think that it may have been from my previous, or could have been from my previous miscarriages. Mine happened to be a low grade, they call it low grade chronic endometritis. And it's basically where, again, not a medical professional, but just from my Googling, my limited Googling, it's basically an infection that would make an environment that is not the best for implantation, causing early miscarriages, which, ding, 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 welcome to my life. So I'm really glad that I did this, and I'm glad that they found something. I'm on 2 weeks of antibiotics that are completely killing my stomach, on top of being sick. So I'm a big pity party right now, so excuse me. But that's basically it. The bad news is I have to go back for round 2 of this. I was going to say something else, but let's just call it a crap show. Round 2 of an endometrial biopsy. So this time around, I will be definitely prompting or emailing or requesting some type of sedative or painkiller, anything to make this more bearable, because I literally already have nightmares about this procedure. Excuse me, again, it affected me that bad mentally, the pain. So, excuse me, I have that in 2 weeks, and just to let you know, they scheduled mine after your cycle, but before your ovulation. So you've got that little window. I think if you're getting the scratch done, I'm not sure if the timing's different, but I want to say it is. So mine was early on, so after my cycle, before ovulation. That's when I have to get my next one. That'll be in 2 weeks, so my body will have a chance to get rid of that tissue, and they're going to retest to make sure everything's completely as it should be. And I'm really hoping that this gives me some, it already has given me some answers, but I'm hoping that this gives me some success in carrying to term, because we've exhausted everything else. As you may have known, I have tested 100% across the board. I've had so much blood work done. You know, they can't find anything. Nothing's wrong with me. I have no weird diseases, nothing. So I'm kind of in a weird way glad that they found this, and we'll go from there. So again, to sum it up, my words of advice would be request a painkiller and or sedative, however you can work it with your doctor. If you do work, I would suggest maybe taking the rest of that day off, or do it on one of your days off. Be prepared for some spotting as well as some cramping, not only that day, but for the next couple of days. You'll feel kind of weird. So that's just my experience with it. But I hope this helped. Please feel free to message me if you have any questions, because I hope this took away some of the anxiety of, like, you know, blood curdling screams and all this craziness that I've been reading about on the internet. So I just wanted to set the record straight from my perspective. I can't speak to everybody, but from my perspective. And again, sorry about the hoarse voice, but thank you so much for watching. And if you have any questions, let me know. Best of luck on your journey, especially if you're going through infertility. I understand. So have a great day. Bye.